There are things that lurk beneath the water, things no one dares to talk about, things that have been waiting for centuries. And tonight I'm going to tell you what happened when I got too close to them. I thought it was just an old man, but I was wrong. He wasn't just crazy. And the creature he warned me about wasn't just a myth. What I saw that night still haunts me. Part 1, the first time I saw him. It all started last summer when I got a part-time job at a Boardwalk ice cream stand. It was just supposed to be a way to make some extra cash, you know? I'd spend long hours there, standing behind the counter, serving families and tourists who came to enjoy the boardwalk at night. The shift was always long, and I was usually the last one to leave, way past midnight. At first, everything was normal, just another job, just another summer. But then, I started noticing something strange. Every single night, as the crowds thinned out and the boardwalk became quieter, I would see him. He always sat on the same bench, the one right by the edge of the pier. He was old, dressed in a long coat, even though the weather was warm. His hair was gray and unkempt, and his eyes were always fixed on the horizon, staring at the ocean. Never blinking, never moving. At first, I didn't think much of it. I mean, it's a boardwalk, right? People come and go all the time. Some sit alone, some just watch the waves. But there was something unsettling about him. It wasn't just that he sat there every night. It was the way he sat, perfectly still, like he was part of the scenery. And then there was the silence. No phone, no drink, no ice cream, just him in the ocean staring. And after a while, that's when it hit me. He never left. I thought it was weird at first, but hey, maybe he was just a regular who came here for some peace and quiet. But then something about him started bugging me. Every time I looked over, he was still there. The same bench, same position, staring. Never once did I see him move, and I'd stay late, sometimes even past midnight. But that guy, he was always there. Watching. Always watching. Part 2, Strange Encounters. It wasn't until a week later that I started to notice something more disturbing. It wasn't just that he never moved. There was this strange feeling every time I looked over at him, like he was always watching me. But when I'd glance away, I'd feel his presence even more, as if he was waiting for something or someone. One night, I asked my coworker about him. I couldn't help it. The old man was beginning to haunt my thoughts. "Hey, do you know who that guy is?" I asked. She just gave me this confused look and said, "What guy?" I turned and looked at the bench, and it hit me. No one else saw him. No one else even acknowledged him. He was always there, but I was the only one who seemed to notice. I started asking other people who worked on the boardwalk, just casually, but they all acted like I was crazy. No one seemed to care. No one else noticed this man. It was like he wasn't even real to anyone but me. I started feeling like I was losing my mind. I'd see him there every night without fail, but it was like I was the only one who could see him. The night started to feel longer, the air heavier, and that's when I noticed something else. Something even worse. One night, I walked past the bench on my way to take a break. It was late, about 11:30 p.m. I glanced over at him and he wasn't looking at the ocean anymore. His eyes were on me. I froze. I don't know why, but it felt like he was waiting for me to come closer. I didn't stop walking, but I could feel his eyes on me the whole time. I didn't even want to look back, but I couldn't help it. When I did, he was still there, staring. It was like his eyes had followed me. I swear there was something unnatural about the way he looked at me. I never felt more exposed, but I told myself I was overthinking things. Maybe I was just tired. I tried to brush it off, but deep down I knew something wasn't right. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, always watched. And then there were the whispers. It started one night when I was locking up. I heard it clearly. Low, soft whispers, like someone was talking, but I couldn't make out the words. I looked around, but the place was empty. The old man was still sitting on the bench, but I wasn't sure if I heard it from him or from somewhere else. I couldn't tell. But that was the moment I knew I couldn't just ignore him anymore. Something was wrong with that man, something that I didn't understand. Part 3, the night I got too close. I'd been working late again, just like always. By the time I finished cleaning up, most of the tourists had already left. The boardwalk was quieter now, the air cold and heavy. It was a perfect night to go home and forget about the strange feelings I'd been having. But for some reason, I couldn't get that old man out of my head. I needed to know what was going on. I just had to get closer to him. As I walked past his bench again, I told myself I was being stupid. I didn't want to talk to him. I didn't want to get involved. But something was pulling me in. Maybe I was just curious. Maybe it was all in my head. But I needed to see him up close, to figure out if he was real. I stopped a few feet away from him. His face was pale, his eyes wide open, like he hadn't blinked in hours. He didn't acknowledge me. He just stared at the horizon, unmoving. That's when I heard it. A soft whisper, barely audible, like the wind was carrying it to me. I leaned in, trying to make out the words. It was the same thing he'd been saying every night. Don't go in the water. Don't go in the water. Over and over. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I thought I was imagining it. My heart started pounding in my chest. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Something was off. I stepped back, not knowing what to do. My mind was racing. Was he talking about something that had happened? Was he warning me about something? And why was he only saying it to me? I should have walked away. I should have turned around and left. But I couldn't. My curiosity got the best of me, and I stepped closer to him. I wanted answers, even if I wasn't sure I could handle them. I leaned in even further, closer to his ear to hear him better. His voice, it wasn't like a regular voice anymore. It was almost a hiss, and that's when it happened. He turned his head slowly as if in slow motion. His eyes locked with mine, and for the first time I saw nothing, just darkness. I froze. His eyes were empty, not like a normal person's eyes. There was no soul there, no life, just darkness. And then with the faintest of smiles he whispered again, "Don't go in the water. Don't go in the water." But this time I could feel it, like he wasn't talking about the ocean. I couldn't take it anymore. My heart was racing and my legs were shaking. I couldn't breathe. I turned and ran. I didn't look back, but I could feel his presence. I could hear his whispers following me, getting louder as I sprinted down the pier. And I swear for a second, I saw something moving in the water. Part 4, The Truth Beneath the Waves. I ran. I didn't know what I was running from, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was following me. I reached the end of the pier, where the lights flickered and the cold wind stunned my face. I turned around, expecting to see the old man, but he was gone. But even though he wasn't there, the air felt heavier. There was this presence. I couldn't explain it. The whispers kept echoing in my mind. Don't go in the water. But what did he mean? What was he warning me about? I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. I told myself it was just my mind playing tricks. Maybe I was just tired. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the image of his eyes, those empty black eyes staring right through me. I had to know what was going on. I couldn't just leave it like this. I went back to the ice cream stand that night, hoping I could forget about the old man. But the moment I stepped inside, my coworker, Katie, she looked at me and said, "Are you okay? You look pale." I shook my head, trying to brush it off. Yeah, just a long night. But I could tell something was off. Her gaze was distant, like she was lost in thought. Then she said something strange. "I heard the pier's been closed for repairs." "Repairs?" I asked, not understanding what she meant. But she just nodded and kept wiping down the counter. "Yeah, there's something going on out there. They said it's been closed for weeks now." I frowned, confused. I hadn't heard anything about repairs. I left the stand, my mind racing. Was the pier really closed? I'd been there every night, but I hadn't noticed any signs, any barriers. The whole thing felt strange, but I had to go back. I needed answers. Something was wrong with the water, with that man. When I got there, everything looked the same as always. No repairs, no closed-off areas. But then I saw something I couldn't ignore. A strange symbol, carved into one of the wooden posts of the pier. It looked like a spiraling pattern, with sharp, jagged edges that seemed to shift when I wasn't looking directly at it. I knew I had to find out more. Something about this place, this pier, was pulling me in. It wasn't just the old man anymore. It was the whole damn boardwalk. But that symbol, that mark, it was like a warning. Like something wanted me to stay away from the water. I decided to get closer to the water to see if there was anything strange there. As I approached the edge of the pier, the wind picked up. The whispers started again, louder this time. They weren't just in my head anymore. I could hear them clearly from the water. The closer I got, the clearer the whispers became. And then I saw it. Out of the corner of my eye, something moved under the surface of the water. It wasn't a fish. It wasn't a wave. It was something alive, something huge. I couldn't see it clearly, but I knew it was there, watching me. I turned to run, but something stopped me. The old man's warning echoed in my ears. Don't go in the water. Don't go in the water. But it was too late. I felt it. A cold, wet sensation on my feet. The water was rising, and I wasn't alone. Part 5, The Thing Beneath. I tried to pull away, to run, but the water, it wouldn't let me go. I could feel it, cold, crawling up my legs, pulling me toward the edge of the pier. I knew I had to get away, but something was holding me there. I heard the whispers again, but they were different this time. Louder, angrier. The whispers weren't just in my head anymore. They were real. They were coming from the water itself, from below the surface. And that thing I saw moving, it wasn't just a shadow. It was something alive, something massive. I turned to run, but my legs were stuck, like I was sinking deeper into the ocean. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The whispers grew louder, then stopped, and then the most chilling sound filled the air. Something was breaking the surface. I finally managed to pull myself free, but not without hearing it. A growl, deep, earth-shaking, and then I saw it, rising from the water, its massive, the twisted form slowly emerging, like something ancient, something that had been waiting, hidden, for centuries. The creature that rose from the water, it wasn't just a warning. It was the reason the pier was cursed, the reason the old man had been trying to warn me. He wasn't just crazy, he knew. I thought I was going to die there, right on that pier. But then I heard a familiar voice, the old man's voice. You should have listened, he whispered, just behind me. I turned, and for the first time I saw him clearly. His face was different. His eyes were hollow, dark, like the creature. His body twisted and contorted as if he had become part of it. I was horrified. This old man, he was the creature's servant. The whispers, the warnings, they were all part of the same curse. The creature in the water had been calling to him, to me. It was hungry, and I had come too close. In that moment I realized the truth. The pier, the ocean, the old man, it was all part of a ritual, a sacrifice. People had been disappearing from this boardwalk for years, not because of some accident, but because the thing in the water had been taking them. And I was next. The creature lunged toward me, its massive form a blur of darkness and rage. I thought it was the end, but as it reached for me, something unexpected happened. The old man, now fully transformed, stepped forward. He raised his hand toward the beast, muttering something under his breath. The water froze. For a second, everything was still. But then the old man's eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and the water, the creature, the pier, it all disappeared in a flash of blinding white light. I was thrown back, landing on the ground, gasping for breath. I looked around. The pier was gone. The creature was gone. The old man was gone. I don't know what happened that night. All I know is that I woke up the next morning in my bed, like it had all been a bad dream. But the memory of it, the feeling of those eyes watching me, still lingers. I can't go back to the boardwalk. I can't even look at the ocean without hearing those whispers. And I know the creature is still out there. Maybe it was all in my head, but I don't think so. I know what I saw, and I know the creature's waiting, watching, for the next person who gets too close to the water. Everything I just told you, it's the truth. But what's still hidden is far worse. If you want to hear more terrifying stories and uncover what's really lurking in this world, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Leave a comment below sharing what you think about what I went through, and if you dare to visit that pier, let me know what happens. Remember, the scariest secrets are waiting for those brave enough to find them. See you in the next video.